What I'm going to do today is look through every single press release Palantir has ever given and summarize what that means going forward. In previous videos, I've been talking about seasonality, cyclicality, which I think is super important, and essentially trend prediction for the future. So I have a list of all of these press releases that Palantir has given. I fed it into Claude, which is my LLM of choice, and now we are in Excel to essentially figure out what does this mean and what are the trends in the data. So here's the raw data set if you want to pause and look at it. But with that being said, I've split it into commercial and government releases and other. So we're pretty much just going to ignore other, anything that is unrelated to Palantir issuing contracts. So we're in a pivot table here, and this is pretty messy, so I'm actually going to isolate down to specific periods of time so we can see, looking at Palantir's 2024, are they ahead of schedule? Are they on track compared to other years for January, February, and March? And what does that essentially mean for earnings that we are getting very, very soon? So I'm going to use this as an understanding of how Palantir is doing so far. This video is brought to you by Intellectia.ai, the AI-driven insights platform for smarter investment decisions. Intellectica offers daily top 5 stock picks for you to discover daily stock recommendations and understand significant movement and identify buying or selling opportunities. Other features of Intellectica AI include event markers showing how stock prices have been correlated to historical events in the past, and deep technical analysis with strategies to trade a stock from a technical perspective. And of course, the integrated financial data hub with data integration, summarization, and chat, including company news, insights, transcripts, SEC filings, and more. So please check out the link in the description to find out more about Intellectica AI. Now, back to the video. So we're going to go ahead and filter by month. I'm going to deselect all of the months, and we're just going to do January, February, and March. And as we see here, we are having commercial announcements in blue, government in orange, and other, which I said we can just pretty much ignore, would be in green. So what we have here is 4 announcements. We can go back and look by month if you wanted to see that, but 4 commercial announcements and 6 government announcements, which is very strong. This is essentially going against what I said previously from Palantir. So, here's evidence of that. USG signing the Army contract, Army again with Anduril, Ministry of Economy of Ukraine, just to prove that these numbers are real. And so while Palantir's commercial announcements in terms of partnerships are a bit below of what they've normally done in 2023 and 2022, certainly ahead of 2021, government is actually much stronger than it has been previously in those 2 years. They have not seen any announcements in the first few months of the year, and I think that's largely due to, as I've talked about, seasonality. Government business is usually strongest in actually Q3. And let me set this, make this a bit bigger so make sure you're seeing it just fine. And so I think this is actually an incredibly good indicator. This is giving me a bit of confidence in the fact that we know commercial is going to be strong just based on all of the other indicators. Press releases aren't as important, but seeing how many government contracts that they've done, it does make me feel good, at least better, that the government business isn't going to entirely miss at all. So let's actually go back to this and run some other analyses here. If we just go by year, perhaps we can do, I'm going to take out other actually. And so let's just look, we can even look at this, like the number of government announcements has already outpaced in the entirety of 2023, and we're just 3 months into the year for 2024, and that really goes to show you how much of a slowdown we've had with government, and now we're currently tied with 2022 and outpacing 2021. So I don't have 2020 in here because Palantir only went public towards the end of the year, so it wouldn't be a full comparison, but I would imagine Palantir's government business, it looks like from just this very early indication, is really starting to rebound. And we haven't had it this strong in a very, very long time. And this is just my first reaction to the data. I would love to know what all of you think, but this is actually very surprising to me, and surprising in a very, very good way. Now, that said, commercial you know, is a very, as you would expect, 3 months into the year, it's going to be, a quarter, right? We're only one quarter in, a quarter of it. So it does look like it's lagging pretty substantially 2023 at this point. Would certainly be on path to really crush 2021's numbers if we were to. If I annualize it, for instance, if I put in, it'll be right about here at 16. So we'll have to see what they say on the call about commercial acceleration and how the commercial business is doing. And I would expect ultimately Palantir to put up a year with maybe, hopefully, bull case between 25 and 30 plus announcements in terms of press releases. And now, not everything gets a press release, right? But they do press release some of the bigger ones. So it's always good to see that. And let's actually just go ahead and take out the year and bring in the month, because I would like to see, and I have to turn off the filter that we had on before. I would like to see what sort of seasonality do we have here. So this is really going back to the idea of Palantir's business is a bit seasonal. Government's strong in Q3, commercial is strong, in other periods of time. So let's actually look at commercial first, because I have a better sense of government. So in terms of when they're announcing things, it looks like beginning of the year is sort of when those announcements get made at the highest points. So January and February, a bit of a lull towards the end of Q1, beginning of Q2, which I guess makes sense. And then into Q2, a bit of a lull towards the end of the quarter. And then it seems like beginning of quarters are pretty strong for these announcements. Maybe the decisions get made at the end of the quarter, any sort of deadline, and then beginning of the quarter, the announcements actually get published, which is good to see. And so it is pretty, choppy. There's not one definitive place where commercial is the strongest, which I think is, a pretty good thing. And I think that government, you see a little bit less of this, actually. So it just changed colors on me. So this is interesting here. We're looking at government announcements. And so the problem with this is that Palantir doesn't PR a lot of these. So they've only PR'd 19 of their government contracts in the last, I did the last 3 years. So the problem is it's like a bit of, a low amount of data, which is the problem. But you will see, for some reason or whatever it may be, March is pretty strong for these announcements. And that's sort of why I said we're looking pretty good, doing pretty well so far this year. So that's basically everything I had from this video. I wanted to really turn this data into something insightful, and I've been very impressed so far in terms of Palantir's commercial business, is, in terms of what they've announced publicly, is pretty much on track, if not a little behind. But I'm very confident that they're not going to miss any expectations. I think they're in a good place. And I wouldn't be surprised if this actually becomes one of Palantir's strongest years, even commercially. And it looks like government is off to a really impressive start. So let me know what you think of this analysis. Until next time.